Hello. Good evening, and welcome to Earth. My name's Christopher, and together with my collaborators Annika and Dean, we're delighted to have Heavy Traffic in residence at Earth, and delighted to have with us tonight the incredible Rachel Kushner and the incredible Levy. Heavy Traffic's current residency, which up until now has been happening at our space in New York, is only the second of such things at Earth, following on from our residency last year with novelist Tao Lin, which also happened in New York. But tonight, we're inaugurating our new space here in Echo Park. Which will be slowly turning into a kind of library experiment, and thanks to Anna for her work on that. The program here will begin a little later in the year, but do join us here on March 16th to kick off our third residency with Montez Press Radio. You can get updates at earth_net on Instagram or earth.net on the World Wide Web. So Annika, Dean and I have been following Patrick McGraw's writing for probably at least a decade now, all the way from Patrick's Art World days in Berlin through his architecture era in London, and more recently in New York, where Patrick has started and since 2020 been editing what is increasingly becoming recognized as the most important new literary journal in the English language, Heavy Traffic. So please stick around for a drink after this evening's readings to celebrate Heavy Traffic, and before that I'll hand over to introduce this evening's readings to the one and only Mr. Patrick McGraw.
I'm so sorry you had to bear witness to that. But actually, thank you so much for coming to this, our first reading in LA, hopefully the first of many. Thank you to Christopher and Annika for hosting us here tonight, and thanks to everyone for coming. We do have an issue out at the moment, issue 5, if you guys want to go look for that. I don't know if it's still available actually, I think it might be. If it's not, we've got a new issue coming out in a couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Our first reader tonight is someone who's been publishing with Heavy Traffic since before it was a magazine, when it was just a website. I think she was one of the first writers we published, one of the first 4. One of my favorite people, one of my favorite writers, Levy.
Sorry. Hi, thank you all for being here. Thank you to Christopher and Annika for having us on Earth, at Earth. Feels cool to say at Earth. And thank you to Patrick for being my second editor ever, and the first editor I ever wrote something directly for. This is the second story that I wrote for Heavy Traffic. I don't know what issue it's in. It's
Issue 2, I don't know.
no, like issue 4 or something. It was a little later issue. Not that it matters. It's not an issue. But I wrote this story for that issue, and Patrick thankfully edited it a lot for the magazine itself. It's since been a little bit more edited, but here is a story called The End, and here in my book is the illustration if you are visual learners. Her hair had already begun to fall out by the time the Mormon super soldier came down from the mountain. Began or begun, she wasn't too sure which. There was no way to check anymore, no one to ask, no one to tell. It didn't matter. Nothing much did by then. Stuff used to matter. Stuff used to matter every day. Stuff used to matter so much that they'd write stories about it. She could remember that. She could remember stories and something called bedtime, being under the blankets, chewing on the shiny cardboard of anti-racist baby books, and playing on the tablet, sticky fingers on the screen, hot November days of snow cones, and talking to baby dolls. Talking to talking baby dolls. She could remember being very small not too long ago, and wars within wars, and 4D infographics about population control, and the ouch of the insertion of a birth control implant under the skin on her arm, and being in a boy's arms under the abandoned ski lift, and starless skies, and kisses, and screenshots of screenshots, and her name, and parts of the national anthem, the second one, but she didn't. She didn't remember any of that by the time the Mormon super soldier handed her a can of corn and began his mask-muffled prayer. Sorry, it's so dark. The light, not the story. Even if she could hear what he was saying, it wouldn't have made any sense, since sense itself had long since come to an end. Lots of ends had come and gone, long before the girl or the Mormon super soldier had even begun to begin. This particular end had been beginning and beginning and beginning. People looked for it on the horizon. It's okay, you don't have to do that. It makes it worse. People looked for it on the horizon at the break of each new day and in headlines as news broke each day. The universe seemed to be shrinking, but of course it was not. It had been like that for centuries. The seams are ripping. It's all falling apart. Unprecedented, unprecedented reality. It's ending. The country is dangerously polarized. Democracy is dying. The polar bears are dying. Fascism is rising. History is ending. The sea is rising. History has ended. Our story is over. It's all your fault. It's not your fault at all. You don't even matter. It was this terrible sort of end, generation and generations old, that no one could know or see the whole of, but everyone felt it, since they had been born and lived whole lives under its long, looming shadow, a slouching spiral, widening and widening. People repeated and repeated, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Haven't you heard? Things fall apart, the center really cannot hold. They said it so many times and in so many different words that it became a prayer in reverse. When the day came, it meant nothing at all. And no one was ready, except a few Mormons in a bunker under a mountain that used to be the best place to ski in the whole wide West. Even they wouldn't be able to escape the end for long. Before the actual smoke and the real dust, the world had already gone foggy, things fading into a baseline haze. People had forgotten, people had been made to forget. People were miserable and making people miserable. There was no more right and wrong, no more good and evil. It all felt so complicated and tired and old and unclear. On that day, that last day, when the flashes went off and everything went up, only to fall down, things were finally, once again, new, clear. The center did not hold. Every atom exploded all at once, and there was light. But nobody was present to see, or say, or pray, or do anything about it. The Mormon super soldier remembered the flash of pure, clean, white light and wondered why he was still here as he stood above the girl and spoke. He knew he wasn't the new Adam. He knew this mission was doomed and that all the other ones to Tonga and New Tuvalu had been too. He told the girl he would be back and nudged the can of corn closer to her hand. They would never see each other or anybody else ever again. Whatever he said to her, or prayed for her, or prayed to his God for her, went unheard. There is, or there was, and there is another God here, an old God. It's like not a capitalized G. He wants it to be known that he was here long before the first people in the Americas and their first civilization, and that he was there for all the rises and falls of civilization to follow. He doesn't know this is the last one. He thinks he will roam the earth forever, eventually rise again when humans do, and once again study whatever befell their ancestors, and once again use the same knowledge to find and to destroy. He hopes there will be nothing written left by the time the survivors' descendants get around to studying stuff. The first people here, the Olmecs, had no written history, none that remained beyond a few controversial glyphs. So the scholars, century later, gave him the names God II, or Maize God. But he can be called upon without words. He doesn't have a name. He doesn't need one. You can find him in Veracruz, carved out of stone, surrounded by growing corn, his face that of a snarling jaguar. He is almost never depicted with a body. He doesn't need one. You can find him again, written about in the histories of the Triple Alliance, the Aztec Empire, where he went by the name of Centiol. Before the Catholics arrived with their conversion fever and their understanding of gods, the Aztecs knew what he was. Not a god at all, really, but a Teotl. Quotation marks. Essentially power, continually active, actualized and actualizing, energy in motion. It is an ever-continuing process, like a flowing river. It continually and continuously generates and regenerates, as well as permeates, encompasses, and shapes reality as part of an endless process. Footnote. Aztec Philosophy, Understanding a World in Motion, James Maffei, I don't have the year, but it should be there, 1978. In the cities, they cut out hearts in exchange for their protection almost every day. Sacrifice was an average part of life. Mostly, they killed in the names of other Teotls, like Tlaloc, who would bring rain in exchange for the tears of children, or, pardon my pronunciation, Zipe Totec, or Lord the Flayed One, who demanded the hearts of warriors, or, I should really have looked up the pronunciation of all these like I did for the audiobook, but maybe it's funnier if I can pronounce them only in my stupid Western tongue. Quetzalcoatl, the serpent, who accepted butterflies and hummingbirds. Still, he knew what it was to have power over people. He lived in hearts and minds and actions and thoughts. He was everywhere. People sprinkled drops of their own blood around their homes. In exchange, he granted them bountiful harvests of corn. He knew what it was to be truly worshipped, even after the Spanish destroyed his temple and a few centuries later put up a parking lot. Even after the Spanish came with their true God, he remained. You could find him in almost everything there was to consume in the years before the end. With none of their blood coming to him, he came into their blood. He was not quite edible, but they ate him up. He let them turn him into syrup. His revenge is sweet to him, though not to the girl. She can't taste. She has no tongue. It's turned to dust like the earth itself, and most everyone else, that or whoever lived on it. She's only this alive because she was by what used to be the mountain, and now she's the only one still here besides some dogs with no eyes and the disappearing figure of the Mormon super soldier. There's no one left to witness, no one left to narrate, but there is corn. That's the old god's revenge. America and its world all blown up, but this is his land again while it lasts, but it won't. Nothing will. The rest cannot be told, but here we are, no more words, no more world. Something has to happen next. Something always happens next, or at least it used to. Girl lays in dust. Mormon super soldier steps over her or her body. Dogs howl in the distance from somewhere so far away that it's almost nowhere at all. This is all the distance now. Soon there will be no more soons. Soon there will be no time, no past, no present, no future. Soon there will be no space, no here or there, no right or left. Nothing will be left, not even corn. What happens to this girl next? There's no answer. What happens to the girl next is that there is no answer. Someone has to make it up, make it happen, make it matter. Once, someone made everything from nothing. Someone with a capital S. But someone with a capital S is gone now, not dead or starved to death, but maybe just done, fed up. Or maybe he, capital H, ready to start over, waiting for the last of this, the rest of it, to end, for the old gods to drop dead with the stray dogs. Maybe this is just one of his days of rest. It's been a while since the last one. There's a theory that this has all happened before and will all happen again. This might be a universe made up of an eternal series of oscillations. Each begins with a big bang and ends with a big crunch. In the interim, the universe expands for a period, and civilizations rise and fall, and people domesticate and worship corn and dogs and gods, and pray and ski and tell stories. And this goes on for some time before the gravitational attraction of matter causes it all to collapse back in on itself and undergo a bounce of some sort and begin again and again and again. First person present mode activated. Sorry, there's no one to look at me. I'm not here, but was anyone ever really? Who knows? There's no one to answer. This is the last time there will be a now. I am the first person present tense here for the last person as they turn into dust. Last person present tense. Last person present. It's a return to form, for dust is a form, or we are formed from dust, or it is to it that we shall return. If I was ensouled and had fingers and a written language to write in, more than glyphs, and the center had held, or if the atomic rupture had been mended through science, or the rapture delayed through faith, or whatever it was that happened had not happened, maybe I could have made a story. And in that story, this sentence would loop and twist around like a warm snake, like a perfect knot, tied to choke the truth out. Instead, I can only howl. I have no words. It wouldn't have mattered anyways. This is where the story ends. The end.
Okay, I want an honor to read one more story, the first story that we ever published, but what do you think? Do you want her to read one more quick story? Honor, come on, read Pillow Angels. Come on, Honor.
This is the first story I ever published with Heavy Traffic, and the first story I wrote specifically, somebody told me to. It was the first time somebody had told me to write a story, and I wrote it for Patrick. So here it is. It's the last story in my book. There are 6 lines of Vyvanse waiting on the iPad mini, 1 for Audley, 1 for Kaylee, 1 for Hadley M, and 2 for me. I already snorted so much that I remembered my entire Torah portion. Sorry, I can't read Hebrew, so this is the phonetic. Vasha masha aretz amere ki ahoni ni nu hasha. This has got to be wrong. Mayem va aha va. I really did it right in the audiobook though, so I can. That's how good this stuff is. But taken by Vince. I could dig a hole to China and save the Uyghurs. I'd be happy to take the SAT or the ACT here on this carpeted floor. I feel like I'm Saturday morning. I've just solved the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. I can't tell you who did it. I can smell the 5G in the air. The whole world tastes like pop rocks on my tongue. Getting high is so fun. We're going to stay up all night. No one is the boss of us. Audley says she wants to take Greta Thunberg's virginity. I tell her that one day I'm going to fuck Barron Trump. Kaylee has a nosebleed. Hadley licks it up. We talk like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Our words flutter around the basement like anime butterflies on CIA crack cocaine. Nothing is funny. Everything is funny. It's all so good. It's all so bad. We don't even have our learner's permits. No one can blow our minds. We're best friends forever and ever, and forever will be over soon. Out of the girls at the slumber party, I have the newest nose. It's small and straight, just like me, but natural, and it makes my whole face just work. I got it for my 15th birthday. You'd never guess I wasn't born this way. As the anesthesia kicked in, the doctor told me the story of how, at my age, he fled North Korea. I dreamt of his hunger and mother and fear and worship and turnips as he cut into my face. My nose was his masterpiece, he said. It made it all worth it. The white tiger he had to shoot as he crossed the DMZ. The family he knows will be punished for generations because of his crime. The guilt constantly dripping at the back of his throat. It was worth it now. Audley, Kaylee, and Hadley all booked consultations. Not that they needed them anyway, but he ended up shooting himself in the face before he could fix their noses. Shooting himself in the nose, that's what it should be. In his note, he apologized to the family he left behind and the new family he left in Santa Monica. He wrote that my nose had set him free. He had finally brought something beautiful into the world, and now he could leave it. I still dream about that white tiger. I wonder who it became next. The bathroom is a Roman vomitorium, even though I know there were actually no vomitoriums in ancient Rome. It's a myth. Hadley has her fingers down Kaylee's throat. Ottilie is brushing the enamel right off her teeth. I'm staring at the clumps of Nobu and pinkberry swirling like dervishes in the toilet. We all want to be Dachau Liberation Day skinny for spring break on Little St. James. We need a vacation because LA is like Narnia now. Climate change is totally real. It's always winter, but never Christmas. I celebrate Hanukkah anyway, so I don't really care. When I grow up, I'll control the media or the banks. But first, I'll study comparative literature or new media or Nietzsche, however they say that, like my brother did at NYU. College will be fun, but I'll miss my friends and our slumber party conversations and their fingers down my throat. We are the most popular girls in school now. All the other girls are fat from the hormones in their chocolate milk and birth control implants, or paralyzed by vaccine injuries, or too busy saving up for their top surgeries to even care. The most popular girls in school threw themselves off a bridge and into the dry LA River. They just couldn't see the point in doing anything else. Ottilie, Kaylee, Hadley, and I weren't invited. We still had our baby fat in braces, or Invisalign. We watched the most popular girls in school get power washed off the concrete. I even saw a few pigeons scavenge around for pieces of meat. We had a slumber party after the funerals, and we knew that somewhere the dead girls were doing the same. That's what death is, an eternal slumber party. If they'd had invited us, I know we would have gone. Thank God we were ugly ducklings. Now we are swans. The night is dark like it always is. ISIS blew up the moon. The tide doesn't know when to come in anymore. Surfers committed mass suicide. It was so gnarly. There was another sarin gas attack at Disneyland. This time Mickey had the masks ready for sale in every gift shop. It's still the happiest place on earth. My parents had sex on Space Mountain. 9 months later, I'd be the second worst thing to happen on September 11th, 2001. 1 second, I was a martyr, piloting the plane right into a skyscraper filled with love. Then there was a puff, and I was a beautiful baby being pulled out of a soap opera actress in Los Angeles. That's just a fun fact about me. Here are some fun facts about my best friends. Hadley doesn't have to run the mile in gym class because she has popcorn lung. All the cotton candy nicotine she vaped in middle school turned her lungs black like a coal miner's. The Make-A-Wish Foundation gave her a wish, but she hasn't spent it yet. Kaylee bought a heart attack gun on eBay when the CIA went out of business. It worked on every stepdad she's had. Now they're gone, we can have slumber parties at her place on weeknights. Ottilie got radicalized on a Vocaloid message board. She came to the homecoming dance with a bomb up her skirt. Someone spiked the punch, and she got so drunk she forgot to detonate. It was pretty embarrassing, but we can all laugh about it now, and we'll be laughing about it all night and on all the other Friday nights that make up forever. I'm cutting more lines with my debit card when the iPad mini starts singing some songs from the Disney movie about the about the non-binary prince SS and the talking poodle. It makes my heart beat too fast and bouncy like a possessed pogo stick. We can't figure out how to turn it off without disturbing the heaping mound of crushed Vyvanse sitting there on the screen. The song is teaching us a lesson about the end of the self and eternal return. Kaylee's autistic brother is moaning from his room upstairs. He wants his iPad mini. We've stolen it to do drugs because all our phone screens are broken and trap the precious powder in their cracks. Kaylee's brother is a buff Boo Radley, sobbing like a baby on a flight to Tokyo. He wants to be near his song, but he can't tell us. But he can't tell on us, and he never will. The undocumented night nurse has no idea why Kylie's brother is melting down. Sorry, Kaylee. I can hear how much she needs a green card as she attempts to cover him with a weighted blanket. The blanket is only making him stronger, Kaylee says. He's too strong. Only a stepdad can subdue him now. He doesn't want the weighted blanket, he wants the song. This Vyvanse has given me the power to telepathically communicate with your little brother, I tell Kaylee. He wants you to know that he lives in hell. We all do. He wants you to know that he lives in hell. We all do, she says as she scampers up the stairs with the iPad mini. She's right. The song gets farther and farther away, and so do the tormented telepathic waves. They turn into just ripples. I'm higher than that really high building in Dubai. I look like Addison Rae or Lauren Gray or something Japanese, which is Lisa Chan. It's a doll. My face is beautiful. I am blonde. I am Jewish. My bat mitzvah was beautiful. My parents were so proud. My recitation brought the rabbi to tears. I think he could feel who I used to be. I was me with my old nose and big eyes. I gave my other life for God. Instead of 72 virgins, I got to be a girl from LA. At the party, after the ceremony, I came in flying on a trapeze. There were cupcakes that looked like circus tents and contortionists and a friendly chimpanzee named Travis. I held his hand and saw something I don't want to talk about in his eyes. Travis is famous now because he ripped off a woman's face and she had to get a face transplant and then a second face transplant because her body rejected the first. I think my body is beginning to reject this face that is mine now. I might drink Windex. I might eat a Tide Pod. I might even just let time move as fast as it does and die an old lady with the same wrinkled face. We think that Hadley will be the first of us to die. Her parents will join a class action lawsuit against single-use fruit-flavored nicotine products. They promise to still let us use her treehouse as our smoke spot, but only weed allowed, no vapes. Hadley says I can have first dibs on her tracksuit collection. This makes Audley and Kaylee so mad that they start moaning in wordless yearning. Hadley explains that I will probably die next, and it's only fair I get to pick first. Everyone agrees that I will meet some tragic and sudden death like Addison Rae did on that yacht. It's such a coincidence that I look like her. I don't want to end up like her. I guess there are worse ways to end up. I guess it's a compliment. We are in the basement, speeding towards something as we laugh and laugh. It's 3 a.m. now, the basement paneled in wood and decorated with WWE memorabilia by so many stepdads is now a medieval dungeon. I could be trapped down here forever. The night might never end. All this speed will get me nowhere. What if we've just been running in place? What if it's one long, big treadmill? What if it's an eternal loop? A demon steals after me into my loneliest loneliness and speaks to me. I think I am crying a little bit. Everyone else is too busy practicing their one-handed cartwheels to see what I see, to feel eternity like recurring. The neon Budweiser sign begins to flicker faintly. I can smell some dead stepdad's aftershave, a manly musk mingling with burnt toast and silly putty smell of 5G. The little men on the foosball table begin to play a match. I wonder which dead stepdad will win. Hell can be anywhere, but usually it's everywhere. Is that where we're speeding off to, or are we already there? I want to tell the dead stepdads that I like the way they paneled the basement, but Kaylee is chanting something in Latin and they are gone again, and I am doing a one-handed cartwheel as fast as I can. Now it's time to play Truth or Dare. I say, truth. For everyone, what if I told you this life we're living right now and have lived? What if we have to do it again and all over again forever? Every smiley face, every frowny face, and there will be nothing new in it. Literally, we're all specks in an hourglass of eternity, and it will never stop turning. Audley asks me what an hourglass is. I show her the emoji. None of them throw themselves down on the carpet or gnash their Invisalign teeth or curse me who spoke thus. We have all experienced a tremendous moment, and so we can answer. Then I would say, you are God, and never have I ever heard anything more divine. All the cities are on fire like the Amazon was when the Amazon still was. I'm on TikTok watching them burn. I order communion wafers on Amazon Prime. I've been trying to get better. I do primal movements and meditate. I reach rainbow state in Sanskrit every time. I get ketamine infusions for my oppositional defiant disorder. They make me feel like a pony who broke her leg, healing like a miracle. I'm just like Jeffrey Epstein. I didn't kill myself. The slumber party is over. The sun is rising. It happens every morning still. This is just one of many Saturdays. The sun is up again. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Next up, we have a brilliant writer, a possible future contributor to Heavy Traffic, and someone who told me that they agreed to do this reading because they live within walking distance of the venue, Rachel Kushner.
The light is on me. Can I read? I think I'll be able to see my book. More or less. Yeah. So, I'm going to read from this novel, Creation Lake.
Came out in September. And, can everyone hear? Is that better to be like close, or is it too close? Like that? All right. If I'm going to read from the middle of the novel, so if you haven't read it, I think all that might be pertinent to know is it's told in the first person. It's a young woman. She's American, and she works as an undercover agent. She's a bad person who was a disgraced former FBI agent who now works in the private sector, and she has been sent to France to infiltrate this commune of like young anarchists, young militants, and plans to get them raided by the French police. And she has arrived there and is with the kind of de facto leader of the commune, a guy named Pascal. And they're in a rural part of southwestern France. And he's like been showing her the village, and they're on their way to the commune. So they're walking next to a river in a rural area. I heard a car coming from behind. It was a beat-up old Renault sedan, coated in country dust, all of its windows down, a woman driving. She pulled up next to us so that there was little room to walk. The woman's brown hair was gathered into a lopsided bun. She had a faded tattoo on her neck, a gecko or some other creature. It looked like it had been moving toward her hairline, but got stuck in its tracks. She directed angry looks at Pascal, driving the speed of our walking and struggling with the clutch. "Here we go," Pascal said. "Everything he says is a lie," she shouted. Pascal did not turn his head to look at her. "Where were you, Pascal?" she said, "when they tried to burn us out of the Rohan forest? 10,000 were blasted by water cannons. 400 farmers on tractors blocked the police from entering Notre-Dame-des-Landes. Where were you, Pascal?" He kept walking, a slight smile at the corners of his mouth, as if to suggest that the nuts were out of the nut house. Her skills with the clutch were wanting. She revved, stalled, started the car again, and restarted it by accident after it was already idling, gnashing the teeth of the flywheel. I'm gonna have to turn to the side to get a little illumination here. "I have been fighting cops and holding my ground since you were being pushed in a stroller in the Jardin des Plantes, Pascal, pushed by your nanny, no doubt an uncouth, someone like me, hired to wipe the ass of someone like you." Pascal never once looked at her. She had clumsy features, a large nose, a broad forehead, a chin that disappeared into her wrinkled neck. Coarse strands of gray escaped her careless bun like live wires. I understood that her unkempt appearance, the sweat pooling on her upper lip, her middle-aged fury, these details made it easier for him to keep walking as if she weren't here. She overshifted and lurched away. Pascal and I kept on. I said nothing about her. In my silence, he would feel obliged to explain. "That was Nadia Durain. It's kind of a long story. She showed up here last fall, and it's like she said. She came down from Nantes, where they've had a very successful movement. They stopped the government from building a massive airport, and they pushed out the police and declared the land an autonomous zone, and Nadia was a committed participant with a lot to say. In fact, too much. Her insistence on her activist bona fides began to grind us down. She argues about everything. You have to hear a million stories that feature her. Some of it has to do with origin. She's from Brittany. It's a different culture." "You simply don't like her," I didn't say. "The effective layer of the person," Pascal went on. "How close to the surface that layer is, this is how we all communicate. You can feel who people are." He gestured to the bare skin of his own arms, his own affective layer. They were rather fleshy arms, and I guessed that Pascal did no farming, no manual labor. just the thinking as his contribution to the commune. We tried to work with her, but her energy was not a good fit. A vote was taken, people wanted her gone. Now she's off our land, but she won't leave the area. It's become this campaign of harassment. I can't go anywhere without that car showing up. I might have warned you, but I'm always optimistic that she will locate her dignity and move on. Go where people respect her as a veteran of various movements. Why not return to Nantes? The insistence on hanging around, it's made some people here wonder if she's an informant. Jerome is convinced she's a cop, but I don't think Nadia's a cop. I don't think she is either, I didn't say. She's alone, and that's hard. We're social creatures. People don't have a lot of tools to deal with rejection, and the ones who come here, they tend to be estranged from their families, from the dominant culture. They come to us as if to a family for acceptance, and so what's next after rejection? Nadia is mourning her expulsion, and from her mourning, and the form her mourning takes is anger. My hope is that her anger will burn itself out, and she'll find something else to channel her energy into. Where did she go after she moved off the commune? He puffed air through his lips and shrugged, a gesture that said, but who cares? And then, moving ahead, she's leaving the commune after spending the evening there. It was 7 p.m. and the hottest part of the day, the peak temperature spike, at least 40 degrees Celsius, maybe 105 in Fahrenheit, and by any measure, hot as balls. Up ahead, something dropped from above and landed on the road. It was a snake. It slithered into a drainage ditch. I walked in the middle of the road instead of in the shade of the overhanging trees in order to avoid falling snakes. I heard a car coming from behind and turned around. It was Nadia Duran in her dusty Renault. This was the stretch of road she patrolled. I moved over. She drove up alongside and coasted the speed of my walking. Hi, I said. Are you fucking him? I laughed. I'm married to his childhood friend. Is that a Canadian accent? You sound Quebecois. No offense. None taken. He's got an insatiable hunger for fresh meat, new girls. You're too old. Could be, I said. No one talks about this thing of Pascal and the girls. They talk about their supposed ethics, but none of it applies to him. That doesn't seem right, I said. I could see the tension that was straining her face start to release a little, her features smoothing in reaction to my sympathy, which she had not expected. Did he try the effective layer of my Parisian buddies can be felt, while a shrew from Brittany, her effective layer is hidden? He did try that, I said. I wasn't convinced. I personally found her affective layer, if that means feelings, to be boiling away right there on the surface. Well, she said, unsure how to respond to this validation. I could tell you things that will not make this commune look so idyllic or nice. Okay, I said. What do you mean, okay? I stopped walking. She put on her brakes. The car stalled. As she restarted it, I glanced back at the commune to see if anyone was observing us. The fields were empty of people. They were all in their dining room, taunting a foodborne illness. I mean, I'd like a ride, I said, but your passenger seat is piled with crap. She began tossing dust-coated items one by one, books, a half-eaten apple, an old sweater, gardening shears, onto the floor behind her seat. Happy now? She asked. I said that I was, and got in beside her. Even with all the windows down, her car had a pronounced agricultural smell, teeming and microbial. The back seat was piled with milk crates full of limp vegetables, soggy lettuces, their edges brown and gelatinous, and rotten melons, their faces caving in. I moved a mud-caked boot off the passenger side floor and put it in the back. You think this is a mess? Wait until you see my trunk. She stalled as she put the car in drive, starting it again, then restarting it without realizing the motor was already running. Setting off, she let out the clutch too quickly. She was in third instead of first. The car lurched forward, the engine pinging. She realized her error and downshifted to first, redlining the motor. She shifted by accident to fifth, causing the car to sputter, then back to first, the engine screaming. She found third gear. We were on our way. I started to tell her where I'd left my car, but she interrupted me. I'll take you to your blue Skoda with the rental stickers, your blue Skoda, which has been parked on the north side of the church since noon today. She looked at me proudly. I didn't see you, I said. That's right, you didn't see me, Quebecois, because I was in the church. That's something I've learned over the years. Churches are open. Even when they're closed, they're open. There's always a way to get in. A church is a nice place to stay out of the sun. Plus, I happen to believe in God. Do you believe in God, Quebecois, or just in Pascal? She didn't wait for me to answer. He doesn't claim to be a god, of course. That would be vulgar. And yet his disciples, Jerome and Alexandre, treat him as one. Boys who never worked a day in their lives, have never prayed, never needed to, never been humble. Up in the Zad, we were on the front lines, defending the land with country people who can as easily face off against the state as they can slaughter and dress an animal, and no one up there is talking at them in some bullshit theory speak. I come down here and it's, Nadia's, she's too loud, she's too boastful, she's coarse. Nadia, she's got a lot of opinions no one cares about. Do you get what I'm saying? Once again, I wasn't meant to respond. You're always talking about your status, your role, the part you played, they tell me. Victories aren't about credit, they say. By Pascal's rules, everything must be an invisible we. Well, you know what, Pascal? Some of us were born an invisible we. Some of us were from a nameless nothing, and we want a name. When you're one of 6 mouths to feed and your parents can no longer work because their bodies are broken from labor and stress, you want a name and a place and respect as part of a movement. Renouncing individualities. That's for rich kids. Pascal can go ahead and get rid of himself, but me, thanks, I'll stay me. Did you know he thinks he's Guy Debord reincarnated? Why would you emulate someone like that? A megalomaniac who was fucking his own sister. That's the truth of things. Everyone knows it, but they hide that part. The part where Guy Debord was having a sexual relationship with his sister, and she wasn't a half-sister either. Not that that would excuse things, but she was a full-blood sister. The day I brought this up, this was the beginning of the end for me and this commune. Pascal looked at me with hatred. This is in the dining hall at lunch, and everyone is supposed to stop eating, stop what they're doing, and listen, as Pascal says. I realize, Nadia, that it's difficult for you to leave anything unspoken. So be it. Let's address this. If we concede that Guy Debord was a sadist and sexual deviant, which, yes, sure, let's concede that these might be true. But then we must also concede, Nadia, that the world is chock full of sadists and sexual deviants, numbering, no doubt, in the low billions. If we take Freud half seriously, I know this is a stretch, Nadia, especially for those who haven't read Freud, we might suggest that sadists and deviants are part of the human psyche as archaic and ever-present pressures that enter into contradiction with other psychic pressures and forces. This sounded about right to me, but my thought on the subjects were private and irrelevant. And he continues like that, lecturing me in front of everyone. Well, Nadia's read some Freud. I read the part where Sigmund says cavemen urinated on the first fire because they thought the flames were phalluses, challenging them about their own dick size. They pissed on the flames and put them out in order to win the dick measuring contest. That is Sigmund's full account of human history. Freud's arguments in Civilization and Its Discontents were a little more involved than Nadia's summary, but the point was that she was hurt. She was angry. She pulled over next to my rental car and shifted into what she thought was neutral. The car shuddered and the engine died. We were next to the church, its garden of nettles and thistles deep in shadow. But for Nadia, we were still in the dining hall where Pascal had just upbraided her. And then he says, "So here is my question for you, Nadia. Why is it that among legions of sadists, exactly one wrote the Society of the Spectacle? Could it be the case that Debord's sadism might have had something to do with his greatness, Nadia? That the very success of his organization depended on his sadism? Could it be that vice becomes, in the historical and political space of the sect, of virtue?" He goes on, and his entire point is, billions are sadists, but there's only one Guy Debord. This commune will fail if they continue this way. Up in Nantes, we stopped the government from their plans to build the airport. We defended the land. The reason for our success is that we had no leaders. Pascal doesn't want a movement. He wants a fiefdom. We were now standing next to her car. I asked where she was staying. "Up at this ruin. It's an empty castle on the hill behind the lake. I broke into one of the buildings." "Why don't we talk in a few days?" I said. "I'll come up there." "Okay." Her expression was guarded, but I felt her inner conflict. Part of her was distrustful of me, but she was too lonely to listen to that part. She started to tell me how to find the place. "When you come up, can you bring some food? Things have been tough for us." "Us?" "Me and Bernadette." "Bernadette? Oh, you can meet her." She went around and opened her trunk. There was a live pig in there, pinkish, coated in white bristles. It began to scrabble at the sight of Nadia, grunting and sniffing with its sheared flat pig nose. She clapped her hands one time and pointed. The pig hurled itself up and over the lip of the trunk and landed on the ground. Not on its feet like animals are supposed to, but it righted itself from its inelegant side flop and stood watching her as if for further instructions, sniffing with that nose that looked molded into the shape of a cup. "Bernadette is in training. She's learning to hunt truffles. You could make a good living with a truffle pig. Isn't that right, Bernadette?" The pig watched her. "It can't speak," I didn't say, and I'll end there. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Honor. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you all for coming, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you. Oh, and sorry? Stick around for a drink, everybody. Stick around. Feel free to stick around.